Congressman Jake Auchincloss is our guest this morning. Let's go on the record. He arrived on Capitol Hill only to witness a deadly insurrection just days into his term. Now, from COVID-19 to gun violence, major issues continue to roil D.C. How is he faring? Let's go on the record.
From WCVB Channel 5, the inside word from Washington to Beacon Hill. Today's newsmakers are going on the record.
Welcome to OTR on this Sunday morning. I'm Ed Harding. Our Janet Wu was off this week, so I'm joined this morning by News Center 5's political reporter, Sharmin Cecchetty. And as always, we continue to follow all social distancing protocols here in Studio C. You can see that Sharmin and I have great distance between us. The large space is giving us plenty of room. Our guest this morning is Congressman Jake Auchincloss, who joins us via Zoom. The Democrat from the state's 4th District is serving his first term on Capitol Hill, and it has certainly been an eventful one. Congressman, great to have you with us. The family's well, I assume, right?
They are. Teddy turned 1 last week. Good morning to both of you.
Wow. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Congressman, we're reaching a tipping point in the COVID-19 vaccination rollout. Soon supply will actually outstrip demand. Now, with hesitancy still a major issue, what more do you think Congress and the Biden administration can do to champion the vaccines?
2 things. First is partnerships. Federal government has already funded $1 billion for vaccine awareness campaigns, but we also need partnerships between state and local governments to have trusted local health boards delivering the vaccines. Partnerships between government and the private sector. I recently visited TripAdvisor in Needham to see how they've created really a terrific user experience for taking a vaccine, and also partnerships between the public sector and nonprofits. I was able to speak to South Coast hospital executives earlier this week about how they are reaching their underserved communities with the lessons that they've learned in the healthcare business for decades now. So we need partnerships. Number 2, we need diplomacy. As supply starts to outstrip demand, the United States needs to lead the world in ensuring that all 7 billion people across the globe get the vaccine, because if we don't reach herd immunity globally, variants are going to continue to fester, and we've got the spark for the next pandemic.
Is more testing, do you think, needed to ease fears in the nation's classrooms?
Reopening the schools is about education, it's about the economy, it's about equity. It's been my day one issue. And I haven't spoken about this publicly yet, but back in November, December, after winning the election and before taking office, I was working with superintendents, with state and local officials on how we could bring in federal funding, state programming, and local organization to do pooled coronavirus testing in classrooms throughout the district to help reopen with confidence and transparency. And I'm just so proud to see the progress that's been made over the last 4 months. Medfield, for example, has totally reopened their schools by relying on the best public health guidance, by bringing in the best science in partnership with Ginkgo Bioworks, and by creating trust with nurses, teachers, students, parents, and administrators. And they're really a model now for the whole nation.
Would you suspect, Congressman, that by the start of the next school year in September, that 100% in classroom, schools will be back to normal before the pandemic? Do you think that might happen by then?
That needs to be the standard. We need full in-person learning, because we know that our kids are suffering from learning loss and suspended learning, and that just as importantly as academic impairments, that we're seeing real socio-emotional issues. Mental health is one of the primary issues I hear from parents, teachers, and students throughout the district. We need kids back in full in-person learning, and indeed, September is not soon enough. I hope that this summertime we'll see partnerships between school districts and camps to provide kids with enriching experiences over the summer as well.
The next topic I'd like to talk about is the verdict in the George Floyd case last week. And after that, you tweeted this: the verdict is the starting point for progress. We need the Senate to pass the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Do you believe that your call for transparency and accountability will be heard loud and clear?
We need to abolish the filibuster in the Senate so we can pass this and other critical civil rights acts. The filibuster in the Senate is a vestige of 19th century parliamentary maneuvering that is now become an existential impairment for voting rights legislation, for police reform legislation, for immigrants' rights and LGBT community rights legislation. As long as the filibuster is empowered in the Senate, we truly cannot govern for the entire country.
Realistically, though, do you genuinely believe the filibuster could be defeated?
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
It requires political courage in the Senate without question, but we have been called to govern in the midst of crisis and to govern for transformational change. the filibuster is an obstruction to that, and it is not constitutionally sacrosanct. We're not talking about an idea that came from the pen of James Madison here. We're talking about an obscure maneuver of the 19th century that was turned in the 20th century into a tactic to block critical civil rights legislation.
You have said, by the way, that reforms here in Massachusetts and the reforms we were talking about in the wake of the George Floyd verdict and the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, you've said the efforts to turn that here in Massachusetts haven't gone far enough, but Governor Baker has praised them. So what more would you like to see? Because there seems to be a difference between you and the governor. What more would you like to see?
Massachusetts has made steps in the right direction on police reform. As the chair of the Public Safety Committee, as a city councilor, I was involved in kickstarting the City of Newton's own police accountability initiative that has now begun to bear fruit. But Massachusetts can be a model for the nation on a number of fronts. Gun violence is a particularly important one. We are plagued right now with incidents of gun violence across the country, more than 120 mass shootings already in 2021. Adopting universal background checks, red flag laws, a ban on assault weapons are things that Massachusetts has done that if the rest of the country adopted would save tens of thousands of lives every year.
Well,
again, the filibuster is the block.
And that's my next question. You served in the Marines. You certainly understand firearms. You've witnessed gun violence in the nation this past year. We had another deadly shooting at a Long Island supermarket last week. Why do you think passing new gun control legislation is so problematic in Congress? And what are your Republican colleagues telling you?
You know, there are some issues in this country where I want to roll up my sleeves and work in a bipartisan fashion: infrastructure, foreign policy. And then there are some issues where I no longer have confidence that we are in good faith negotiations with the Republican Party. And unfortunately, gun violence is one of them. We need to pass gun violence reforms urgently at the national level: assault weapon ban, universal background checks, red flag laws. These are things that work, they save lives. And if we have to do them on a partisan vote in the House of Representatives and Senate, so be it, because I know that across the country, those are bipartisan pieces of legislation. There's a difference between unity in the country broadly and unity within the chambers of Congress. We got to save lives.
So do you think at this point there's just no middle ground there on a gun control bill?
I think Republicans have had the opportunity to do the right thing for a decade now, and they've shown that they are beholden to the NRA. We are not going to wait for them to realize that common sense gun safety legislation with 90% approval ratings throughout the country is the right thing to do. We're going to pass that, but we got to get rid of the filibuster to do it.
You know, Congressman, I'm sure you hear this too, and I honestly hear anecdotally, I hear this everywhere. If the tragedy in Sandy Hook can't move the needle, what is going to move the needle?
I agree with you. And that's what I mean. The Republicans have had a chance to do the right thing over and over and over again. Day after day, we have seen the consequences of inaction, and yet they do not act. I am done waiting. We are going to pass this legislation. But again, not to be a broken record, but it is the key here. Mm-hmm. Got to get rid of the filibuster.
So I would like to talk about what the president is going to. As a Marine, you served in Afghanistan, and the president has called for removal of all U.S. troops by September 11th of this year, 2 decades after the war began. In your opinion, sir, is that the right decision?
President Biden's signing the deal in 2021 that President Bush could and should have signed in 2002. I commend President Biden for withdrawing troops. We got to do a lot more in Congress to ensure that we cannot ever again have failed forever wars like this. That means repealing and replacing the authorization for the use of military force. That means reasserting congressional oversight of war powers. And it means right-sizing the Pentagon's budget. I am the only combat veteran to have co-led or to have co-signed the letter with Representatives Pocan and Lee to cut the Pentagon's budget by at least 10%. We've got to be investing these funds in humanitarian assistance and diplomacy and global challenges like climate change and pandemic preparedness. We do not need to be investing them in things like the F-35, $1.7 trillion fighter jet that doesn't dogfight.
Are we abandoning the women and the girls of Afghanistan?
The United States government is committed to continuing to provide humanitarian assistance, diplomatic assistance, and continuing to partner with nonprofits and with the Afghan central government to protect those hard-earned gains for women and girls. We know that on both economic and socio-political dimensions, educating girls and protecting women's rights is one of the most important things you can do, both from a humanitarian perspective, but also from political development. And I know that President Biden and his team are committed to maintaining those investments.